All right, so now that we've covered some of our Y1 growth outcomes, again, relationships, selectivity, and post-secondary pathway, as well as the key benchmarks, as well as strategies around it, let's move into some of our immediate logistics. So centering our focus on people, community, and impact in a particular way, curriculum, fellow counts, and any upcoming events. And I'm actually going to flip this. I'm going to start with some upcoming events. So I feel like kickoff PDC is paradoxically like just happened yesterday, but happened like 6 months ago at the same time. So PDC 1.2, one because we're in year one, and two because it's our second PDC, is coming up. Eventually, what we want to do is really confirm on these district days. So your school district might have set aside particular dates for staff development. We really want to make sure that we're utilizing times and spaces that already exist for you and not adding an extra burden by having to come on a Saturday. So please confirm with your principal if you could attend a PDC with us during those normal staff development days. And we really want you to self-advocate if you would prefer to attend those district days versus a Saturday PDC. So our first one is going to be KIP. We've already confirmed that our KIP PDs are going to be getting together, and we'll be there on Wednesday, October 3rd. After that, there's Aldine, which is going to be Friday, October 5th, Spring Branch, which is going to be Monday, October 8th, and HISD, which is going to be Friday, October 19th. You'll notice that Yes Prep isn't here. Yes Prep, we're actually going to try to figure out something. Again, you guys are two PDs, Mr. Jones and Mr. Broaden, so we'll figure something out between the two of y'all. And then also what I wanted to mention is our pilot PDC. Next year we're going to be rolling out something called culturally relevant pedagogy. It's going to be our new curriculum that really centers on this exchange of a cultural identity and that exploration. We're going to pick one or two PDs from each district to attend this pilot PDC instead of PDC 1.2, and that's going to be Saturday, October 13th from 8:30 to 1:30. And then finally, if district days don't work, if you're not attending the pilot PDC, we do have a makeup PDC. These are going to be one of two possibilities. And so to figure out what works best for everyone, we're going to ask everyone to complete the doodle survey. Again, our two options are going to be Saturday, October 20th, as well as Saturday, October 27th. Pre-work for these PDCs. Pre-works for these PDCs, basically two items. Collecting some data around GPA as well as SAT or ACT diagnostics, just to see what that baseline is for our fellows and how we could grow, as well as 2 or 3 transcripts of your fellows. That way we could do a transcript deep dive and really understand the nuances that might occur at your campus. Also upcoming, we have our Find Your Pathway Expo. This is being hosted by the City of Houston at NRG. So given that it's going to be a short turnaround, it's again happening Thursday, October 4th. It might be for schools that are closer to NRG that could figure out a way to transport their students to NRG via the metro. TACRO is going to be present, so that's going to be our Texas Association of Collegiate Registrars and Admissions Officers. So a lot of Texas schools, but as well as a lot of out-of-state schools. This is going to be all over the nation, representatives coming in for this expo. Again, collecting that baseline, a 10th grade PSAT or an SAT or ACT diagnostic. One best practice is actually to utilize your rosters that you have, and as well as create some fellow-facing trackers. I know with Mr. Broaden we were talking about really giving the students the ownership of their own grades. And then there are some test prep tips. Also pretty exciting, this year we are making sure that each of our PDs have $175 per cohort for the whole year. Okay, not per semester unfortunately, but for the whole year, $175. You could use this for incentives as well as end of year celebrations. You could use it for application costs for programs or institutions, or to help cover transportation costs or lunch costs for college visits. Again, that's $175 per cohort for the whole year. It makes things a lot easier if either your DTS or someone on the One Goal staff pays for those expenses rather than you paying for those expenses, because to be reimbursed is basically a lot of paperwork. And so the process is a little bit longer. So if you have an idea of how you want to spend those $175, please contact your DTS. That way we could arrange something just to reduce the amount of paperwork on your end. Fellow counts, I want to thank the 11 PDs that have already submitted their rosters. That means we have 10 more Y1 PDs to go. So I'm going to show you guys Chanel's PDs as well as my PDs. If your name is in blue, thank you so much. You've already completed your rosters. Barring any schedule changes, you should be all set. If your name is orange, we're still waiting on those rosters. Essentially, we need those rosters to create fellow records as well as fellow email accounts. And then in October, we're also going to start our enrollment e-paperwork. And I also want to give a shout out to Nicole Gomez, who actually started to use her roster and keeping track of those initial GPAs. Okay, diving into curriculum, we have, of course, our wiki page. Again, you need to make sure that you're logged into your OneGoal profile. I've included a scope and sequence as well as the KIPP scope and sequence. I've revamped this a little bit to and broken it down by quarters. And when doing this and creating these pacing calendars, I've realized how intensive it is. I remember when I was a program director, how much I felt behind of all my peers. Don't worry, that feeling is ubiquitous among program directors at OneGoal. There's simply so much to cover. And when you're balancing out the curriculum and test prep and study hall, because we know that we need to give some time to our students to actually improve their GPAs, as well as like diving into current events or any of the logistics that have to happen during a school day, like a pep rally or anything, right? All those accommodations that you have to take into consideration. It is a lot, and hopefully having this scope and sequence as part of your resource as well as the calendars helps ease that. So here's our scope and sequence for October. For Y1, again, KIPP has its own specified scope and sequence. And here's an example calendar for HISD. For example, in next week, first week of October, we should be wrapping up Unit 2, transitioning into Unit 3 after that. I've included district-specific days, for example, HISD Staff Development Day. On October 11th, all OneGoal staff are going to be out at our OneGoal office. We basically have a retreat, a day to kind of reflect on our Q1 data. And then you'll see at the bottom here, college visits. We have 4 college tours that we want to prioritize this year that are going to be facilitated with OneGoal. That means we're connecting with our post-secondary partners to secure these dates. Once these dates are confirmed, we're going to let that information out to you guys, and it's going to be on a first-come, first-served basis, and we could accommodate anywhere from 50 to 100 fellows, as well as our routines. So again, you're diving into the curriculum, but you're also balancing out College of the Week. You're also doing social justice articles. You're doing weekly action plans. You're doing test prep or study hall. So again, hopefully having this resource in front of you helps ease some of that burden. Okay, so let me go back to our curriculum and resources as well as our special cases. Again, these pacing calendars are going to be available for you. You could just simply click on them. Oh, let me do one more thing on our pacing calendar. If you want to customize your pacing calendar because you are on an A-B block schedule, or you want just your own calendar that you could potentially share out with your fellows, you could do this on Google Sheets by clicking File, make a copy, and then you're able to make that copy your own, right? So just so that you have your own pacing calendar if you choose to have that. Special cases, again, we're holding off from Unit 1, Lesson 2. That's our Intro to Inbox lesson. For those of you guys that have completed your rosters already, those email accounts are set up. I'm just trying to get with IT to figure out what the default password is, as well as taking care to do the special preparation needed for Unit 2, Lesson 2, Part 2, which is our GPA jump. I want to include some shout outs. So shout outs to Nicole again for including her GPA data. Let me show you what that looks like. For her, again, I've just kind of like blanketed the names with some fake names and fake emails. But really what I was checking out her roster one evening and I noticed that like she was punching in GPAs at the same time. So shout out to Nicole for getting a head start on doing that. Shout out to Brandon Broaden. I was able to visit his classroom and I saw community circles done so superbly well. Essentially, Brandon brought in a gavel and shared how he was the president of the debate club and how his transition from a relatively large high school to being the only person from that high school to attend his college was a big step for him, and showing that vulnerability and allowing space for the voices in the classroom to be heard from every single fellow in his classroom. That was amazing, especially when he paired that with the hopes and fears lesson for one goal. Diana Hernandez, again, valuing student voice and also giving students to share their own values. So you'll see the picture on the right talks about self-discovery and self-respect, independence and family security, wisdom. And so she wants to know her students on this very deep, intimate basis, and she's done so by building that trust, by allowing for her fellows to demonstrate strength in vulnerability. And what I've really seen is this transformational relationship. So instead of being transactional, being transformational. And then finally, Mr. G over at Westbury, just making sure to advocate in terms of post-secondary pathways, talking about trade school, talking about certification, and also talking about 2-year and 4-year universities as well. And so he has a college fair coming up, and he had his fellows create all these different posters to talk about what those institutions are like, what their academic requirements are like. But really, again, emphasizing that there's so many different possibilities for our fellows after they graduate from graduate from high school, whether it's attending college, a trade school, military, or going straight into the workforce, but just giving that emphasis on their choice, right? Making sure that it's their pathway that they're choosing. We have a list of homework assignments. Just get to know using classroom visits, wrapping up for September, again waiting on a handful of rosters. October visits and support is going to be coming up. Internalizing our Y1 growth outcomes, that was the previous video. Remember, it's centered on selectivity, it's centered on relationships, and it's centered on post-secondary pathways. So how can we grow selectivity, relationships, and post-secondary pathways in Y1? Make sure to review your scope and sequence or your scope and sequence pacing calendars. Hopefully that eases the burden on your end in terms of organization. PDC2 is coming up. Remember, we have our pilot PDC for the new curriculum. We're trying to utilize district days, but then we also have makeup days available. And then PDC pre-work, essentially, please come to PDC with a selectivity baseline of your GPAs and SAT or ACT scores for your fellows, as well as 2 or 3 transcripts. Try to pick a diverse group of fellows in terms of those transcripts. And then finally, strategizing around post-secondary exposure. Maybe it's arranging for career speakers or college reps to visit your classroom. Maybe it's going on those college campus tours. Maybe it's arranging a college fair. Maybe it's tapping into TACRO that's happening the first couple of weeks of October. Again, please do not hesitate to contact either Chanel or myself. Our emails are there, our phone numbers are there, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.